Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving deep into the absolute foundation of human performance and healthy aging. We are going to decode this incredibly elite, bidirectional feedback loop between your physical activity, sleep architecture, brain health, and nutrition. This isn't just about getting a decent night's rest or hitting the gym for an hour. It's about understanding how your micromental health, your capacity for deep work, and your overall physical resilience are all governed by one giant interconnected biological system.
Let's just look at the world we're living in right now. We are constantly navigating digital overload, our attention is totally fragmented, and we're dealing with chronic stress on a daily basis. So it really begs a critical question. Are our modern habits fundamentally short-circuiting our own evolutionary biology? Think about it. Our bodies were literally designed to move intensely and then rest deeply. But today, our sedentary routines and artificial light environments are creating this massive biological contradiction. And this disconnect doesn't just make us feel a bit tired, it's actually actively accelerating aging and cognitive decline. Now, the foundational science here reveals a pretty stark truth. The body just doesn't operate in isolated little silos. Instead, it is a continuous, highly integrated, bidirectional loop. What you do during the day, your physical activity, directly dictates the depth and architecture of your sleep at night. And in return, the quality of that nocturnal sleep completely governs your physical capacity, your ability to learn motor skills, and your entire systemic recovery for the very next day. It's a package deal. You really can't optimize one piece of the puzzle without fundamentally altering the other. Every single system affects every other system. Okay, let's move right into Section 1, brain drain and sleep loss. The consequences of sleep deprivation are, they're nothing short of a catastrophic cascade for both high-level cognitive and physical performance. Just one single night of restricted sleep triggers the accumulation of neurotoxic beta amyloid in your hippocampus, and that is a primary driver in cognitive decline and Alzheimer's disease. At the exact same time, you're depleting your muscle and liver glycogen, completely destroying your physical endurance. Neurally speaking, we see a massive drop in the activation of the brain's attention and salience networks, which basically kills your capacity for deep work and focus. Throw in lowered testosterone, totally altered dopamine regulation, and a literal drop in your immune system's natural killer T cells, and man, you've got a perfect recipe for systemic breakdown. But fortunately, we can actually actively defend against this breakdown through a fascinating metabolic pathway known as the GABA shunt. So GABA is your brain's primary inhibitory neurotransmitter. It's what calms cortical hyperexcitation and lowers that intense stress-related anxiety, which is absolutely vital for maintaining your micromental health. Here's the cool part. Cardiorespiratory exercise actively modifies this cortical excitability by recovering these GABAergic inhibitory processes. So by just getting out there and moving, you are literally building a neurochemical shield that protects your brain from stress and preps it for incredibly restorative sleep. To put a hard number on the cost of ignoring this loop, meta-regression analyses have actually found that your exercise performance drops by roughly 0.4% for every single additional hour you spend awake after sleep loss. Now, 0.4% might sound tiny, right? But in the realm of human performance, compounding a near 0.5% deficit hour after hour, that leads to a massive, undeniable deterioration in your explosive power, your decision-making, and your overall cognitive endurance. It adds up so fast. Which brings us to Section 2, orexin, the metabolic switch. Produced deep down in the lateral hypothalamus, there's this incredible neuropeptide called orexin, sometimes known as hypocretin, and it has a profound dual role in the body. It acts as the ultimate metabolic switch. It maintains your daytime arousal and wakefulness, while simultaneously stimulating spontaneous physical activity, and what we call non-exercise activity thermogenesis, or MEAT. It is literally the chemical reason you feel energized and motivated to actually get up and move. Here is exactly how this mechanism plays out in real life. When you engage in physical activity, you fuel your brain's orexin production. That surge promotes profound neuroplasticity by releasing brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF, which is amazing for supporting your memory and cognitive longevity. This heightened state keeps you super alert, driving even more spontaneous activity throughout your day. And then finally, having burned through all that energy, the orexin system naturally downregulates in the evening. This sends a clear, powerful signal to your body that it's time for deep, restorative sleep. It is just a perfect biological rhythm. But here is where modern life creates a pretty devastating paradox. When your deep sleep is fragmented, that brilliant orexin system gets completely hijacked. Instead of just regulating your wakefulness, it becomes hyperactive in a stressed state. This pushes your brain toward hyperalimentation, which basically means it drives reward-based overeating and intense cue-induced cravings for highly palatable, sugary foods. This perfectly illustrates exactly how poor sleep completely sabotages your gut health and intuitive eating. It proves, once and for all, that sheer willpower is almost never a match for a totally dysregulated neuroendocrine system. Let's move to Section 3, Chronobiology for Optimal Recovery. You see, there are very specific timing buffers required to prevent our healthy habits from totally backfiring on us. Let's look at exercise intensity. High-intensity workouts massively elevate your resting heart rate, your core temperature, and your sympathetic drive. If you do that too close to bedtime, it's going to seriously delay your sleep onset. So you really need a 2 to 4 hour buffer there. Now, moderate intensity exercise is a bit more forgiving. Generally, you only need about a 90-minute buffer if you're healthy adults, but if you're already highly fatigued or managing a clinical condition, you need to be finishing those workouts more than 4 hours before bed just to optimize your sleep architecture. And we also have to factor in your own unique genetic blueprint, which we call your chronotype. Morning larks, or early chronotypes, experience major disruptions to their sleep architecture if they engage in late evening physical stress. It just wrecks their sleep onset. Conversely, night owls, the late chronotypes, have a completely different physiological tolerance. They can often handle those late-day workouts without any significant disturbances to their sleep quality whatsoever. So, personalizing this feedback loop to your own biology is absolutely vital. Now, what happens if you inevitably face some partial sleep deprivation? Well, evidence-based napping is your ultimate cognitive and physical rescue protocol. The research shows that naps should last somewhere between 30 and just under 60 minutes. And the absolute optimal timing for this aligns perfectly with your natural circadian dip, usually right around 1 p.m. Hitting that window restores your cognitive function and anaerobic power beautifully. Just remember, you have to give yourself a 60-minute post-nap buffer to clear out that groggy sleep inertia before you can demand maximal athletic or deep work output from your brain again. Let's dive into Section 4, Overtraining and Autonomic Burnout. When the biological loop is overloaded without recovery, we see a condition known as overtraining syndrome, or OTS. And it's a huge misconception that overtraining is just about your muscles being fatigued or feeling a bit sore. It's not. It is fundamentally a neurological and endocrinological failure. It's the complete systemic breakdown of your autonomic nervous system losing its basic ability to recover, adapt, and handle stress. And this kind of burnout, it doesn't just happen overnight. It's a progressive degradation that moves through 3 distinct clinical stages. It usually begins with functional overreaching, where you might just notice some mild soreness, maybe waking up feeling unrefreshed and generally poor sleep quality. But if you ignore that, it spirals into sympathetic overtraining, where your fight or flight system basically gets stuck in the on position, leading to severe insomnia and crushing anxiety. Finally, if the system is totally exhausted, it crashes entirely into parasympathetic overtraining. And that's characterized by profound exhaustion, depression, and a total, complete loss of drive. Sympathetic OTS is typically something we see in anaerobic, high-intensity athletes. Their nervous system becomes completely hyperactive, just flooding the body with cortisol. You'll see high resting heart rates, way over 100 beats per minute, extreme restlessness, severe insomnia, and unexpected weight loss. Parasympathetic OTS, however, is the exact opposite, and it's much more common in endurance athletes. Their nervous system is just entirely fatigued to the point where it can't even produce stress hormones anymore. This results in abnormally low resting heart rates under 60 beats per minute, chronic depression, and completely unrefreshing sleep. It's wild because these different inputs create entirely opposite physiological emergencies. Because these physiological emergencies are polar opposites, the treatments have to be completely counterintuitive. If you're stuck in sympathetic OTS, your primary goal is to calm that hyperactive system down. You need parasympathetic recovery. Think meditation, massages, hot tubs, daytime naps, deep rest. But if you're in parasympathetic OTS, your system is already overly depressed. You actually need to gently stimulate the nervous system using sympathetic recovery techniques. We're talking cryotherapy, electric muscle stimulation, or contrast baths, just to wake that whole system back up. And finally, Section 5, the biological feedback loop. Look, the bottom line here is that you simply cannot hack your way out of evolutionary biology. Deep sleep is absolutely mandatory to clear out that brain amyloid and preserve your cognitive longevity. Intelligent, well-timed exercise is required to build the protective GABA that actively shields your mental health from chronic stress. And intuitive, high-quality nutrition, that's what properly fuels the orexin switch, keeping your energy, your mood, and your metabolism perfectly balanced. You literally cannot optimize one system without fundamentally elevating all the others along with it. The science clearly proves that your gut, your brain, your muscles, and your sleep architecture are all locked in this constant, high-speed conversation. It's amazing. So I want to leave you with a challenge to really audit your own lifestyle loop. If every single system in your body is constantly communicating, what instructions are your daily habits sending?